Greetings and welcome to the 19th of May 2024. On this particular channel, I don't need to announce that it's the third decade of the 21st century because this is my nerd channel. So I have had some feedback on my other channel, specifically about the background I used. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So it all starts with Kevin H9110. You're a Supernatural fan. I think I typed a response, where my initial reaction is like, well, duh, who isn't, right? But not everybody is. Stace responded with, I found him after he had discussed a Jensen Ackles video, laugh out loud. To which Kevin responded, I was also an extremely huge fan. I first saw it in 2008, was in middle school at the time. Oh god, that's when my last child was born. Caught up fully by the time season 6 finished, and I've been watching it live since season 7 episode 1. It got me through high school. Before that, I grew up on Charmed, which is similar in some ways, and was probably an even bigger fan of that. Waiting a week, being torture, dying inside when it was just a monster of the week. Physical pain, holding off the urge not to binge when catching up. I'm partly thankful it ended because this show has had a hold over me for too long. Like Jack burning off his soul whenever he used his magic. Him using magic would have equated to me giving Supernatural the time of day at times. I've had a couple withdrawal periods for 1 to 2 years of not watching where I felt it needed to be removed from my mind for my own sake, but going back was always inevitable. Yeah, so Kevin, on that particular note, well, how do I frame this? My wife and I, when we finally got back together back in 2003, we started merging our lives together to include catching up on who we were. It's a bit of a long story, but, as most nerds and geeks do, we're all about some context, right? So I dated my wife prior to joining the Marine Corps. Long story short, we would eventually separate, weather geography, her parents, which is another story. And then we would get back together about 9 years later in 2003 after the invasion of Iraq. I was already into Angel, and I was already into Smallville, and at the time I was into wrestling. I would watch Charmed from time to time, and this is going to sound horrible, but if I ever watched it, I would usually have music on in the background, and it would just be a bunch of hot chicks running around, doing stuff. I realize that probably sounds horrible, but, it is what it is, right? Well, we got married in 2004, and we moved from Northern California to North Carolina, and I would eventually go on deployment, come back from that deployment, and Smallville had just finished season 4, and Jared had just left the Gilmore Girls, and we used to watch that in syndication as well. Essentially, if it was on the CW or whatever it was called at that time, minus wrestling, that's pretty much what we watched. And she was also into NASCAR at the time, so we would watch that as well. And then she was also into Friends, which I didn't have a problem with. So, as we were merging our lives together, one of the things that we did was, when Jensen left Smallville at the conclusion of season 4, and Jared had left Gilmore Girls, and they started Supernatural, first things first, my wife was really hooked on the fact that it was horror related, and that the hook was these two brothers driving up and down Route 66 in a hot rod hunting monsters. And I also got the biggest kick out of how the CW, or whatever they were called at the time, WB, UPN, how they would recycle actors from other shows. At that point in time, I think we were also watching One Tree Hill. This was when they were still in high school. For some reason, it was oddly relatable. I guess being within 10 years of high school, I was still able to kind of relate just a little bit. But then when One Tree Hill did that fast forward 4 years after college, I don't know, it just got weird. Kevin, replied, I'm going through his other Supernatural videos now, but haven't seen the spin-off yet. I'm not really sure what that is in response to. By the way, random supernatural info, Garth and Benny are getting married in real life. Yeah, apparently that was on Instagram somewhere. My wife and I haven't been able to find it, but Ty and DJ getting married, we haven't been able to find anything concrete that's actually happening. I mean, cool if it does. I mean, as long as they're happy together, right? Kevin responded, a werewolf and a vampire, they'll never see it coming. Yeah. I'll get to that in a minute. Stace was responding to my reply. Also, you need to geek out on your other channel more. Well, here I am. I'm geeking out. Apparently, I just copied these and pasted them. Of course, I was like, fine. Any subject in particular? Of course, that's the power of the written word. Is I don't know if you read it that way, Stace, but that's why I was like, fine. Any subject in particular? You said Fallout episodes or check out Beacon 23, or maybe we can decide in a series together. I like that. I dig it. Kind of like a rolling commentary, if you will. And then also you said Fallout TV series or anything y'all are watching at the moment. Well, so Stace, to give you an idea, one of the things we do is we try to prepare for GalaxyCon. So Sam Witwer's going to be at GalaxyCon, Charlie Cox is going to be at GalaxyCon, and so is John Bernthal, as well as a bunch of other people. So we are currently rewatching Being Human. We're on season 4. We're midway through it. We watched it when it was on in real time, but it's funny how much you don't remember when you stopped watching it. It's not bad. It's a completely different take on the werewolf vampire genre. It's not bad. I think it's well done in the sense that it's not overly supernatural to the point of disbelief. Like, it's the way that it's being projected is you can suspend just enough disbelief to believe what's happening. After that, we intend to watch Daredevil and Punisher from the Netflix series in order to catch up to that. My daughter's been hounding us about Fallout. I'm not familiar with the video game. We did start watching Paris with Giancarlo Esposito because, well, it's Giancarlo. I mean, come on. But we got to finish that as well. Plus, Skeet Ulrich is in it with him. So I'm kind of curious if that's going to be an ongoing thing or if it's just a one-off. Kind of like Tom Welling did his The Professionals. That was just a one-off. But we'll see. Once we get through the con, which I know it might seem like it's a ways away, but it's really not. And Stace, I think you're close enough in age to me where 2.5 months will go by really, really quick. Yeah, Kevin, as far as some of your comments on Supernatural, one of the things I can tell you is that I miss it. I miss it in the sense that, so it was one of the first TV series that my wife and I started fresh from the beginning as a couple. And I don't know if you've seen any of my previous videos on the subject, but it's the first television series we actually started together as a newlywed couple, and it was with us through so many different things, which I think some of us appreciate and don't underestimate the escapism that good storytelling can provide from whatever it is you're trying to escape from. And that's what Supernatural was for us for 15 seasons. For 15 years of our marriage. I mean, at the time it ended, my wife and I had been married 16 going on 17 years, because we were married for a full year before the show premiered, so it went for 15. Of course, the 15th season had its hiccups. But, I mean, just to kind of give you an idea, right, since we're just nerding out and geeking out. So we started it in North Carolina. We took it with us to Columbus, Ohio. My wife took it with her to Chicago for a year. We brought it back with us back to North Carolina. It stuck with us when we moved to a different location in North Carolina. We had it with us when our son passed away, and it was one of those like weird comfort blankets that it was there for you to help distract you from whatever you were going through, like the loss of a child. We had it when we moved into our rental property, when we moved back to this town that we're in now, and we had it when we moved into our final home. You know, if I turn my screensaver thingy about my background off, you'll just see my disorganized shop behind me. It was just one of those things that was a constant, you know, for the overwhelming majority of our marriage. I mean, my wife and I just hit 20 years married, and Supernatural was with us for 15 out of 20 years that we were married. I mean, that's significant. That's 3/4 of our marriage was Supernatural. So I completely understand the sense of withdrawal. So here's a question. Here's a question for anybody involved, anybody nerding out on this particular subject, right? Okay, work with me here. If you binge watch it, if you watch it when it's on syndication on TNT, nothing at all against Jared. Nothing at all against Jared Padalecki. But when you binge watch it, is the character of Sam not difficult to deal with? Just in your own way, shape, or form, do you not find it somewhat difficult to deal with? He's always whiny, he's always reluctant, he's always hesitant. You know, it always seems like the character of Dean is way more invested in the hunting. The character of Dean is way more invested in the family, his brother. He's always doing something for his brother. It just seems like when you if you ever binge watch it and it's just coming at you, you know, you're not waiting 1 week in between. My wife and I found that Sam was quite difficult to deal with, and I don't think that's got anything to do with Jared. It's how they wanted him to portray the character, and perhaps it's not something everybody can see when you're watching it week by week. But when we binge watched it, it was, I don't know, it was rough. Admittedly, I would absolutely love to see a Jensen-Justin partnership, kind of a derivative of Supernatural on Tracker, where if they partner up as brothers like they're currently written in the show, while it may be derivative, I think it could be a different direction that I could, you know, potentially get behind. Because at the risk of sounding weird in any way, shape, or form, I guess you could say I miss seeing Jensen on TV on a weekly basis. I tried watching Walker, and again, if this helps stimulate any nerd conversation, I tried watching Walker, and I've made this comment a few times, so I'll make it again for anybody who's new and is not interested in going through the back catalog, which I totally understand. First and foremost, you take a franchise like Walker, initiated by Chuck Norris. For some of us, that sets the stage for a level of expectation. Maybe not for everybody. Maybe more people are just overly involved for the sake of Jared and not for the sake of what the franchise is founded on. For me, I came into it with the expectation, okay, you know, you're not going to do the Chuck Norris thing, but you're going to do your own thing. You're going to keep the Walker brand alive. And I didn't find that. I didn't feel that. I got nothing against Jared. You know, I got nothing against Jared for, you know, earning a living and, you know, carving out a niche for himself. I guess maybe I had such a level of expectation based on the brand of Walker Texas Ranger that it didn't quite go where I wanted it to go. And plus, for my personal take on the subject, Jared's character of Walker comes across a little goofy, like Disney goofy, you know, kind of gumpy, like gosh, and it's like, I don't know if that's necessarily Jared, you know, kind of being more of himself than he was on Supernatural, but I just got used to Jared being a certain way on Supernatural, you know, that confidence, that, you know, and on Walker he's kind of like, but I don't know, maybe it's changed, maybe it's gotten better. I haven't watched it in probably, I don't know, maybe since COVID, since the one family that had like the feud with his family moved back, and they were reliving the whole fire event or whatnot. If you know this show, then you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with everything. I'm kind of curious to hear what any of you have to say, or more importantly, say like on the subject of Supernatural, if there's anything in particular, you know, maybe you thought a storyline. My wife was not a big fan of Leviathan. She didn't like the Leviathan season, but I digress. By all means, we can totally nerd out and geek out, and if you've got any advice or suggestions on 3D printing, I'm all ears. I'm still trying to 3D print. I've got an Elegoo Neptune 3 Plus that apparently needs some hardware work done to it, that I've gotten instructions from Elegoo to perform some like surgery. My Elegoo Neptune 3 Max, I've been using Sunlu PLA Plus White, and I've had nothing but issues with the Sunlu PLA Plus White. As of right now, my workhorse is the Elegoo Neptune 3 Pro. It's a smaller one. I've been using the Sunlu PLA Plus Black. I've had no problems with the black. Let me see if I can get it. You know, I've had some good success printing out gauntlets for Mandalorian cosplay. Yeah. So, you know, if anybody wants to geek out on that as well, I'm all ears. You know, it's an open channel like my other one. You know, let's get together and discuss. Let's nerd out. Until then, everybody be safe. If you comment, I promise I'll read, react, and respond, provide some feedback. Until then, you're awesome.